All right. So welcome to weekly workout number 13. Last week we went over the meeting of the mentor and spent a lot of time looking at social proof, looking at how to frame yourselves as a trusted advisor and a mentor when you're reaching out to strangers. The next phase in the hero's journey is the point that the hero crosses the threshold. So to recap, your hero in this case is your prospect, your dream customer, your dream client. You say, hey, you should come check out this new world. And hero initially will be like, no thanks, I'm okay. Devil situation. Then you step up your mentor game. So, okay, I'm going to frame myself as a mentor. I've been down this road before. I know why you're likely wanting to stay in your old world. And this is what's happening in the world. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's the unknown, but I've been through it many times. And there comes a point when your salesmanship, for lack of a better term, the actual convincing of this dream client or dream prospect to take that first step. This is not to be confused with closing the deal. This is simply getting them to take the first step from their old world, which is likely comfortable and predictable, to your new world. So we're going to focus on this concept of crossing the threshold. And it's really important to understand that this is typically a little step, and it is the scariest part of the journey for the prospect is that first step. So we're going to unpack this, some of the particulars here. All right, in stories, a few weeks, last month, we did a workout entirely on the idea of the threshold guardian. So when someone's crossing a threshold in a story, there's usually someone guarding that threshold. They're guarding the bridge, and there's a few examples here. There's the little, I don't know if it's a rat, a squirrel, or a mouse or what, but from Labyrinth, there was a character that was guarding the bridge. Inigo Montoya from Princess Bride, when Wesley is climbing up like way too fast up that rope, and Inigo Montoya cuts the rope. He still gets up there, and Wesley, the hero of the story, actually has to fight Inigo Montoya to get past that threshold and actually go on the next step of the journey. And in that particular case, and this is an important point to know, that whoever's guarding or whatever is guarding the threshold isn't necessarily a villain. It's not necessarily a villain. In the sales process, and I'll link to the original threshold guardian piece that we did, workout that we did, is it's playing hard to get, essentially. It's not like, this is a pretty big journey. I don't know if you're up to it. And that's very notable in Fight Club. When they were starting to recruit members to Fight Club, they would always tell them no first to see who actually had the grit and determination to cross the threshold into that nasty house and start their nihilism, whatever they did in Fight Club. Another thing to note with the threshold guardian is that it could be not an actual character or a person. It could be a process. In some cases, I was talking to a client the other day who is beginning to charge for their consults. They used to give the free consult, and now they are charging for that. It's no longer free. And what that does is that payment, the actual processing a credit card for $50 is the threshold guardian. And then once they go through that, that prospect is actually going to be treated better. They're going to have a better likelihood of having a less strenuous journey throughout the sales process, throughout the entire process, because they've actually spent money. There's a lot of different ways of looking at it, but as I said, I'll link to that in the notes. Now, the actual act of crossing the threshold from the old world to the new world, my favorite one is in The Lord of the Rings, when Samwise is chasing down Frodo, and they get to the point, and it's kind of interesting that there's a scarecrow there, because I think it was a throwback to Wizard of Oz, which we'll get to here in a sec. But Sam is like, this is the farthest I've ever been. I've never gone past this point before. This is the farthest away from the Shire I've ever been. And he actually stops, and they stop in the film and they have a discussion about it. And when he crosses it, that's when Sam's journey starts. And Frodo's journey it takes a different path. The most famous crossing the threshold scene is Wizard of Oz. It's the point that Linda the Good Witch, who in this case is the mentor, is letting her know, I was like, hey, all you need to do is follow the yellow brick road. And she points where to start. And that's a really good example also of how the mentor is very specific and deliberate. Like, this is the path you need to take. This is exactly where you need to step to cross the threshold. Throughout stories, especially mythological stories, the bridge itself is a bridge. It might be skinny, it might be invisible, like in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. There may be something else about it that makes it even more difficult. And we'll get into that point a little more here in a sec. But in Wizard of Oz, her journey really kicked off when she was following the yellow brick road. Because up to that point, she was dropped into some strange land, but she hadn't taken action yet. A tornado pulled her up and dumped her into Oz. It was only at the point that's okay, like, this is the journey you need to go on to get home. All right. So crossing the threshold. All right. So how does this all apply to business? The most important thing when you're looking at the journey your prospect takes is what happens after they click. What happens after they take the first step? And I would say that it is absolutely critical to give attention and spend time crafting the right messaging and the right process, so that either in your initial cold email or in that initial response. So say I'm pushing out an email and say, hey, I've got this amazing new thing. This is like where you're at. I've been where you're at. You've gone through all the rules. This is why you should care. This is how much research I've done on you. I really, truly understand your needs. And now I want you to take this next step. And say it's just replying to the email. Now, we have two choices here. We could either say, all right, they've replied or they've clicked. If we could tell them what happens after that click or after that reply, we could describe to them what's on the other side of that threshold. We've already kind of painted the world, but they're still going to have to take some steps to get there. Money, onboarding, and a lot of things that people sell requires time from the people that they're working with. So maybe that commitment of time, they're going to have to break a bad habit, especially in the world of fitness, nutrition, wellness. There's a lot of scary things there. So spending time describing, okay, you're going to step over this threshold, we're going to take this step, and this is what it's going to feel like, and this is what's going to happen next. You don't need to describe the entire process, but spending a lot of time describing the first step is really important. So here's a couple of examples of wrong ways and right ways to do this. Oftentimes I'll have people contact me trying to sell me something. It's like, hey, let's hop on the phone so you can learn more about this opportunity. That is way, way, way too vague. It's way too vague. It's like, okay, so learn more about the opportunity. Like you went from specifics, telling me how you're going to make me all this money, or make my life easier, or make my business better, or help me upgrade from a 4-pack to a 6-pack. And then we're going vague again. It's like, I mean, you could still go vague, but like, so I'm going to get on the phone so I can learn about stuff. Like that seems like more work. So it's already enough work for me to get on the phone with you. Now you're going to give me more work. A better way to frame that would say, hey, let's hop on a call next Tuesday at 3 p.m. It'll give me a chance to learn more about you. And that's something that is an important step in when you're reaching out to a cold prospect or someone or a stranger and asking them for anything is, hey, this email, this message I'm sending you, this is just a best guess. And I'm a good guesser, but it's still just a best guess. Like there's still more that I need to know in order to help you out or to help speed things up or help make this process easier. Like I still need to know more. I want to know more because you are a unique special flower and everyone wants that tailored, bespoke, tailored to fit approach. That's not always practical, but people still want to feel that. And so that's a very common one. There's a lot of other ways to get around that. This is what's going to happen next. And it's also could be framed as a why, like why you should give this call to action. That's another one I see a lot is like, hey, click here and fill out this form. Or, before you speak to us, I'm going to have you talk to Renee, our onboarding specialist. And before that, I need you to fill out this questionnaire. All right, that is all the work that you've done to get them to even read that far is wasted when you kick them back down the food chain. So if you are a director in your business and you're reaching out to someone, they need to be speaking to you. You're not going to send them to an onboarding specialist. You're not going to kick them back down the chain. They're already here, feeling like they're going to get something worse by taking that step is just going to make them run again. This is why I use the phrase a lot, tripping at the finish line. That's a really easy way to trip at the finish line. And then giving them too much homework in the beginning, also tripping on the finish line. Sometimes you have to have questionnaires. Sometimes you have to have, and it's actually not a bad thing to have a good process. I mean, I just went through an onboarding process with a new vendor who's helping us with some, cold email platforms, actually being able to push out more. And their onboarding process was awesome. It was very simple, but they didn't tell me that I was going to get taken through this onboarding process in great detail. So one of the things that we could do is, one, you're going to be talking to me, or you go up. I'm going to have you talk to our founder. I'm going to have you talk to somebody else. So another thing that you could do at this point is use it as an opportunity to say, hey, this is about you, not about me. About you, the prospect, not about me, the mentor, the trusted advisor, the friend, the ally, or whatever. So use that as an opportunity. But notice as well that this gives us a chance to add specificity. Oftentimes the reason that the unknown is so scary for people is it's blurry. It's muddy water. So it's interesting and entertaining in stories for there to be some unknown. When you're selling something to somebody, especially to a stranger, the unknown is scary. So you need to remove some of that. Now, sometimes, especially in a consultative selling situation, you don't have that luxury. Sometimes it's like you need to get them on the phone so you can find out and give them something specific. So in lieu of that, you add specificity into say, okay, so click here to schedule a call with me. You're going to pick a date and a time. On that date and time, I am going to call you at a number that you provide. We're going to talk for 15 minutes. I'm going to ask some questions. You can ask me some questions. After the call is done, I'm going to type up what I think the best thing would be for you. Worst case scenario is I'll divert you to someone else in my organization or to one of my peers or to a different company. Best case, we'll have a chance of doing some good business together. So those are that level of almost insane specificity helps so much, because even though it's just describing that little step is the hardest step. So telling them, how to balance themselves, what to expect. If you're really backlogged, that would be a chance to say, yes, I am booked for the next 2 weeks because that's how this process works. So even though it may not be desirable, you could still, you could still be almost a guardian. You could still make it hard for them if that's the type of angle you're taking. You're pricing yourself as like, only the most badass people get a chance to work with me. If you have that angle of attack that you're taking, you still need to add specificity. It's like, yeah, this is hard, and here are the flaming hurdles that you need to jump over in order to work with us. And in certain cases, companies actually have a good enough product or a unique enough situation where there's actual true scarcity where you have to do that. You need to weed people out, but you need to give them some specificity, like making it really broad. Like you try to get a product on the shelves in Walmart, they run you through the crazy process, but it's a known process. They tell you what the steps are and at what points you'll be kicked out of the process. Specificity and just a level of sensitivity about how big of a deal it is for them. It may seem like, oh, wow, it's only a $50 consult, but maybe no one's ever spent money on a consultant before. Maybe no one's ever spent money on a professional photographer before. Like, we don't know at this point how scary it is for them. So maintaining a level of sensitivity by adding and injecting specificity into that part of the communication is going to not only help you get them to take the step, but it'll help them continue on the path with you. Because just because they cross the threshold doesn't mean they can't try to retract. But we need to reinforce that commitment. Reinforce that, yes, this is the right thing. And I could spend hours just talking about what that next message will look like. But the main thing to remember is sensitivity, specificity. Reinforce that commitment. Just address the fact that, yes, it's old world, but in other words, yes, it's hard. It's going to be worth it. Yes, it's going to be hard. And it seems counterintuitive and like reverse psychology, but it's way more effective than saying it's a super easy process and dumping an 80-question questionnaire on them, via an autoresponder right after they schedule. So, all right. For the rewrite homework, we're going to focus on one thing, and feel free to email it to me, nate@inboxattack.com, or david@inboxattack.com. So we could give it a gander and give you some feedback. But I want you to describe the tiny first step to working with you in great detail. So get very specific. If it's photography and it's a consult, break that step down of all the little micro steps in between and just write it out. Don't worry about how good it sounds, but the exercise here is to inject more granularity, more specificity into that section. And we can still trim it back down again for length, so it's not, a page-long list. But going through this exercise is going to help you identify potential pitfalls in your process, and it'll help unmuddy the water a little bit. All right, I know that was a bit of a long one. If you have any questions, hit up david@inboxattack.com. We will be going live again next week We're going to discuss the trials portion. And that's where we get more into the different steps of the sales process and how to keep people who have paid from trying to unpay. So, all right, that's it. Keep writing, folks. Bye.